Lots of you know that when the day is over, when Hero League is done on the stream, I like to play a little bit of Xul. I've liked him since release. He was a little OP then. There was even a bit of a problem where his exploding skeletons would make more skeletons and cause that to snowball infinite skeletons in the map. Of course, they've always been limited by the number of maximum skeletons he has. Always been one of those features. That number was much higher in damage when it originally came out. So Xul was being really oppressive on release and slowly kind of fell down as the other mage classes sort of rise in prevalence and lane clear, and his team fight ability outside of lane started to get pretty low. In fact, nowadays we only ever see him on Blackheart's Bay or maybe Infernal Shrines here and there. That's probably about it. Tomb of the Spider Queen maybe being the other one. So this rework comes at an interesting time. I'm really interested to see if Xul can kind of make his way back in. Diablo just released its Necromancer, so it seems like a pretty cool time for them to do this kind of rework. I'm actually here on Heroes Hearth. Its Math of the Storm has once again written in a fantastic article going over some of these changes that came his way, starting with the baseline mana changes, which is really interesting. He figured out that with a 10 mana cost reduction on Spectral Scythe and a 5 mana cost reduction on Cursed Strike, if you're double soaking one of those lanes I just talked about, mainly being Tomb of the Spider Queen and Blackheart's Bay, you will now break even in mana due to the orbs. And that's really helpful. It means you don't have to take level 4 mana anymore. It means you don't have to use your well as early to keep going against enemy characters. So it could lead to a lot more push power, a lot more sustainability, and ultimately more teamfight damage if you show up with more mana after clearing the lanes. Of course, it means you have mana to fight. But there also may be mana or healing talents we used to take that now can just be skipped in favor of something more damaging. So I'm really excited to get into here. Another thing he points out early on here is part of the base ability now is fixation. This is where your skeletons will now fixate the target of your bone prison. I haven't actually gotten to try this yet, so let's go ahead and get an enemy out here real quick. And let's go ahead and, we won't be doing Abathur. Let's go ahead and toggle the minions too, get them running as well. And we'll go ahead and make some skeletons and see what that feels like. Let's do... I've been having some Artanis issues recently. Let's fight an Artanis here. So as he hits the stage, I'm making some skeletons and whatnot. Actually palling around here in the new bone skin they added in. Looks pretty sweet. So if I clear all these out, burn them all down like I might in lane, so I've got all these skeletons. Well, they should already be fixated on him, right? So they just do what they're gonna do. So what we need to try is, we only have a couple skeletons, and then they suddenly drop what they're doing and go attack. So we'll make a couple skeletons here. Maybe some of these back ones will be useful. And now as they're attacking other things, they become interested in just him. But this one over here seemed to fart off a little bit. Skeletal Workspace will now fixate the target for their duration. Ah, so that's what happened there. He must have been new. He was actually a brand new employee, a new skeleton raised. He didn't have the previous command to fixate upon spawning and went about his own business. So it could be helpful, particularly in something like a jailer situation, where you're going to grab up that talent at 4 that spawns 2 skeletal warriors. They used to be fixated anyway, but imagine now you're out of lane, you make some skeletons, maybe you're in Infernal Shrines right in the pit, and outside the pit you create some skeletons by presence of being there, and those guys run over to help it attack the target. Will they make it there in time? Probably not. It isn't that huge of a DPS increase if you're actually looking at an already collapsed lane, basically being that you've got your lane, the minions die, they lack a target, and so they grab onto the next target available, just like we had in Artanis in our very first try there. The skeletons just fixated naturally. So it won't actually be too big of an increase in DPS unless they're actually standing in the middle of skeletons that are currently not hitting them and have recently spawned. There's also some other cool math in here, particularly involving the new level 1 Shackler. Now, this has been a pretty lackluster town for a long time now. Backlash. pretty good, giving a 15% max health damage in an area effect when you use your bone armor. This is really useful against things like stitches or any kind of tank, actually. The front line was pretty bloated. Xul often fulfilled this off-bruiser kind of character just by nature of his survivability, melee, and the small range of his bone prison. So you had to get in pretty deep anyway, give yourself a shield for 25% of your maximum health, and do some good damage on your way out, because it does damage on expiring, or, of course, if the thing just is destroyed, that shield goes away, this pops immediately. But now you have, oh, is of course up against Shade the whole time, too. This was really useful, particularly on those Blackheart's Bay scenarios in the past, where Illidan was such a famous merker. He would be a one to jump you. You got to walk all the way home, no movement abilities at all, and you would just slowly limp, and Shade was what allowed you to avoid the basic attacks that would kill you along that walk home. Still pretty good, adds that 20 seconds to it, so it does have its detriments. So Shackler now getting an upgrade, not only slowing for 35% for 1 second, so if they sort of limp out of it, you still have that duration now. Basic attacks against heroes, this is removed actually from the Shackler part. Basic attacks against heroes while they are stunned, rooted, or slowed reduce the cooldown of bone armor by 2 seconds. So this includes the slow that is made by the Shackler, but also includes Bone Prison, or any abilities that might be used that would give a slow root or stun in the area. So if you're hanging out with a Jaina, you'll have more Bone Prisons, and you're not increasing the cooldown anyway. So I'm pretty excited about this one. There's always a chance you don't need the actual auto attack reduction. Here we can see that I put that down pretty darn fast, cut through about half of it, and now with a Bone Prison, in the rooted times, I'll do those big hits and get that last bit off. I mean, that's pretty darn close. You would be in situations where, more quick matchy of course, but where you would pick a Xul and you wouldn't have enough targets or a good target in the first place to use backlash against, and you didn't have any auto attacks on the enemy side that you were actually concerned about. It could happen. And in that case, you went, I'm not going Shackler, I guess I'll do backlash and do as much as I can. So I'm really excited about the Shackler here and its possibilities. Let's start going through the talents here. Other than Shackler, which is what I'll pick to the start, not really sure what's sitting in here. Quite a bit has been moved around. In fact, let's go ahead and just jump to 10 here, since this is a rework, and there's no need to go quite by level, as I'm aware of sort of what his base abilities are. Reaper's Toil looking new there. Quest, hit 20 scythes on heroes. Reduce the cooldown of a Spectral Scythe by 3 seconds. 8 seconds, down to 5. Not bad. Let's see what it feels like. Complete the quest. Shouldn't be impossible to do, but if you're double soaking, maybe you're not participating in a lot of fights, maybe it would take you easily past 10 to get those 10 hits through. And you go down to 5 seconds, and it'd be a big increase in your actual damage. I have no idea what Artenis died of. Guess he was wailing on my walls. Let's see what else is available there. Grim's Scythe. Each enemy hit by Curse Strike reduces its cooldown by half a second up to 10 seconds. 15-second cooldown on that. That is splash damage. I think that actually could combo really well with things in the future. So let's keep an eye on Grim's Scythe. Actually, Reaper's Toil may have some cool interactions too. More scythes mean more interactions with whatever talents we get down the road. Jailers. Oh, now has a quest on it. Bone Prison spawns 2 Skeletal Warriors. These do not count towards Xul's raised skeleton maximum. Artanis is going for it. While fixating on an enemy, Skeletal Warriors gain 50% movement speed and attack speed. Okay, suddenly things make a little more sense. Let's go ahead and give this a shot.
Choose a talent.
We'll do a Shackler, why not? And let's do some Jailers. That's really interesting. So I need to spawn skeletons. I have to spawn 80 skeletons, but then I unlock their sort of skeletal dash ability. Ding, 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 along with the lane. Maybe if I clear this lane all at the same time, Artanis will run for it, and we'll get to see them kind of book it around him a little bit. All right, lots of little 34s. Yeah, wow. They're pretty mad at him. How long do they fixate for? Oh. Fixate on the target for their duration. So unless I create new skeletons, they'll just be on him. Oh, wow, that could do quite a bit of damage. Did it do something else? 50% movement speed and attack speed during this time. Wow, they really do body block each other a bit, though. So we'll have to see how many hits they're actually getting in. That's a cool talent, though. I think that's pretty awesome. And just sort of the call out of all the skeletons just throw themselves at a single target. And with reduced armor, if that's still in there, that could be pretty darn good. Curse Strike heals for 60% of the damage dealt to heroes. Now, according to Math of the Storm here, this is about equal. What you're looking at about is a 5% nerf, according to him. The sad part is that's just a 5% nerf if we're just looking at the actual numbers of the hit. This isn't including armor or anything like that. So our previous version, which would provide healing based on number of heroes hit, actually will have provided more output if the enemy has any sort of armor protection or anything like that that comes through. So this is a nerf, but when you mix it perhaps with an earlier talent like maybe Grim Scythe, you could see something interesting happen there. So we'll have to see how those build up too. Unrelated to that math though, Weaken, increase the attack speed reduction of Curse Strike by 35% and the duration by 1%. Let's actually take a look at what that used to be over on Xul. Weakened, increase Curse Strike attack speed slow from 40% to 75. So our slow is now 40% and we take it up to, oh, so it does the exact same thing, but the duration is increased by 1 second. Summons for 2 seconds. So now you actually create a 3-second slow that they kind of walk away with. 3 seconds of decreased attack speed at 75%. That's starting to get a little interesting, actually. I wonder how that would feel on a Taz Dingo Zul'jin. Probably not too much. There's sort of a diminishing returns at a certain point you can get when you're dealing with attack speeds and slows and how much is sitting on there to keep it going. But what would that look like on Tracer? In fact, we could probably find out here. Let's find a Tracer. And like all our computers, she's a bit shy. Let's go ahead and grab that Curse Strike reduction. I remember when this hero was coming out and we saw that and we're just like, oh my god, 75% auto attack reduction. This game is broken. We'll never get... So she's firing at her normal rate. Huh. Oh, would you look at that? So the sound, the auto attack animation is the exact same. Come here, come here. Come here. But look, while she's making all the same noise, she actually is attacking considerably slower. Yeah, well, Tracer doesn't have a lot of health, so.
Choose a talent.
Yeah, it appears that she's actually unaffected. But in all reality, you're actually reducing the amount of damage that's coming out of her by quite a bit. That's cool. So that what was that guy up against? He was up against Harvest Vitality, which would be that sort of bruiser. Everyone's grouped up. I need to heal myself, maybe haps while I'm shaded or shielded. Weakened with that duration, though. That sounds pretty nice. Up against Ghoul's Essence. Ah, I see. So what they did was they combined two talents. They took Ghoul's Essence at 4, which used to give 8 base mana per Skeleton Warrior raised, and combined it with Rathma's Blessing at 7, raise a Skeletal Warrior that heals Xul for 55 health, which was scaling as well. So now it's 1% of Xul's maximum health and 0.4 of his maximum mana every time a Skeletal Warrior attacks. So it doesn't matter what he's attacking, but it does matter that he attacks. Okay. Let's see what our math man has to say about that. So he's going on to say that the returns on this will be entirely based on how many auto attacks the skeletons are actually getting in. And you'll have some talent synergy to make this more useful, but getting as many attacks as you can. So this is an interesting one. This is a bit messy because I have to get the attacks out.
Choose a talent.
So perhaps
Choose
a
a
shackler,
talent.
perhaps a jailer,
Choose a
perhaps a
talent.
track ghoul
Choose a
then
talent.
at 7. But how many attacks are these warriors actually going to get out? The real goal, the real magic of the previous 4 and 7 stacks was that all I had to do was create the skeleton minions. So if I was very low, like I am now in a sense, I could just go start farming a lane and hang out by it. Spawning the skeletons was enough to get me healed up. And if I actually kill skeletons, I'm reducing my chances to heal myself anyway. Let's see. Let's get a bone prison on Tracer there. Okay. Not quite as safe as it was in the past, but still an opportunity to get a decent amount of regen. Something a lot more Nazebo-ish about this now. Poison Nova remained the same. Skeletal Mages seems to have remained the same. Let's double check that. Yep, just talent changes. There are some 20 goodies hiding in there, though. For now, let's do Skeletal Mages. The old strategy was Skeletal Mages because they're based on health, because it's a summon. If you are above the enemy team in level, destroying these things would be too expensive for them to do based on sustain, based on the cooldowns, and what have you. If they've got flame strikes, area effects that can quickly get rid of all your skeletons in one go, then you might pass on skeletons for Poison Nova. If you're behind, then you might go Poison Nova because you're simply saying their damage is too high, my Skeletal Mages won't last at all out there. The other option you had was Poison Nova. You wanted to go that. You basically acknowledged something about the enemy team was too low. Maybe they only had a Ka regime and their team's a little balled up. So there's a good chance that you'll be able to spread a poison and their lone healer, maybe a Tyrande, won't be able to remove said poison damage in time. Or you need an opener for Genjis. It's very organic, and I really like the choice between these two. But for now, Skeletal Mages, because that's what the baseline goal is, at least on old Zul'jin. We'll see what he looks like as we go further. Let's go ahead and put him up 20 then, so we'll see 20 level stats. But for now, let's try out the new Shackler, Jailers, Track Ghouls, Essence, Skeletal Mages, and whatever lays here. Echoes of Death. Almost just call it Skeletal Echoes because we know more skeletons. Spectral Scythe spawns 2 additional scythes next to the first one. After 1.5 seconds, dealing 75% damage. What?
Choose a talent.
I guess we'll just have to see it. Oh! Ooh! Huh. Someone's been playing with the Cho'Gall circle effects. Huh. Oh! Interesting. What an odd shape. So you walk into the Infernal Shrines pit, you do what you can, you grab some things, and then you usually, as Xul, start running backwards because you want to sweep those across the entire lane. Alright, I mean, 75% damage, that ain't bad. So let's imagine I wanted to do one of these. So let's assume I'm just clearing the lane. No real way to pull those together. I guess I would have to instead maybe plant it out and then run forward. So these two sort of sandwich alongside me. That could work. What if I chose instead to do siege damage? Yeah, get some siege damage out there on a building. I'm also curious, could I pull it off in a fast enough walking order that if I was multi-soaking, now at 13, so it's a little late for multi-soaking. Usually that job is sort of come and gone by then, but, you know, let's say I wanted to really clear the crud out of this lane. That would be mana efficient, certainly. Team fight efficient as well. I, of course, haven't completed my quest, so my skeletons are not charging forward. Rapid Harvest. Gain 5% attack speed for 3 seconds each time Cursed Strike hits an enemy, up to 75.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
Let's just go ahead and click it and see if there's any sort of visual display. Now this is a flat 4 seconds trigger, right? So if I attack Yeah, if I increase my attack speed during this, Tracer's just getting herself killed up there. If I increase my attack speed during this, then I'm getting more hits out. So if I attack at 1.2, so a little faster than 1 attack a second for 4 seconds, so I get 4 attacks out normally with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I actually squeeze in 2 bonus attacks. But I'm only hitting 1 here at a time. So if I were to imagine that I was fighting many heroes at a time, for example, the Lost Vikings, which are under L, we can assume then that I would increase my attack speed exponentially by hitting all those sorts of heroes up to that maximum of 75. Could be good, particularly if we're looking at some other talents here. Reducing, for instance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then they ran for it. By ruining everything. No, that's pretty darn cool. Wow. For 3 seconds, gain attack speed. Curse strike hits an enemy. So after that, I would then be sitting on 3 seconds of increased attack speed in addition to? That's what it looks like, right? Yeah. Dude. Well, now they're running. And now it's over. And I still have my increased attack speed. That's pretty nice. So what would that even look like? There may even be more talents like that waiting for us later on. So I do cool down.
Choose a talent.
Track ghoul. I guess here I would do something like heals or attack speed reduction, maybe.
Choose a talent.
Curse strikes attack speed. Yeah, there's some stackable value there. Interesting.
I stand sentinel.
They're just too scared of me at this point, though.
Silent.
That's pretty cool.
Corpse. I sense.
What's our last one here? We have an executioner that's still active. Looks like it's unchanged. Attacking enemy hero that is slowed, rooted, or stunned increases the basic attack damage by 30% for 3 seconds. Attacking hero, you can activate your own, and it gives you the buff for 3 seconds. Increases your basic attack. Okay, so if I were to then, let's imagine.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
I wanted to activate my own executioner.
Choose a talent.
Could I just run in? Let's go ahead and hit an auto attack. Okay, 2. 37. Get a root. 300, 308, 308, 308, 308 on the other targets. Okay, let's try one more. One more go here as Olaf dies. I guess we'll have to. Is this only versus heroes? Attacking a hero, slow and rooted, increases your basic attack damage. Oh, yeah. So let's test that. So if I run into lane, no, they're too scared. They're just come back. Okay, here we go. All right, so I run in and I get myself an Olaf and I hit him. All right. Yes. Now, unrelated to attacking Olaf, I have created a higher lane clear scenario. I'm not sure that's how you would want to use that spell, but that is interesting, an interesting way to activate it. Let's go to 16. Amplified damage remains unchanged, still 1.75, losing 25 armor. That's pretty darn good. Corpse explosion. When skeletal warriors die, they explode. Damage. Deal 100% damage to non-heroic enemies. That includes buildings and stuff. Yeah, that'd be anything non-heroic. That's pretty nice. And Bone Spear is now at 16. Dealing damage in a line. So actually, interesting. Bone Spear isn't up against any Scythe talents. So you really can build an almost spellcastery ranged Xul. But there isn't anything to stack. Reduce the cooldown, yeah. And then Echoes of Death, but nothing crazy. Wait a minute. Echoes of Death. Reaper's Toll. Is the Mortal Wound still here? It is. 75% less healing for 4 seconds. You got an 8 second. And then you reduce that by, so you have a 5 seconds, only a 1 second window. and you do that wave in front of you, hitting all those people, that's pretty neat. So explode on death. Let's go ahead and try that out. Let's go ahead and get our Artanis out from earlier.
Within this place.
And see what he thinks of my exploding corpse skeletons. Which are now, let's go ahead and complete my quest too. So they have that bonus movement speed and attack speed once I create the lane. It hurts. I don't think he's a fan. Look at him go. That fixate's really cool. And then they explode as they die and deal damage in the area around them, dealing more damage to non-heroes. Is that just them, though? Is that total? Deals 100% increased damage to non... Okay, so it's not actually the skeletons that get buffed. It's just their corpse explosion part. Still neat. Still does what you want it to. I like Bone and Spear. I like... those are both great. Level 20 has some new features. We already talked about Mortal Wound there. Have the Cold Hand of Death. Increase the slow of Frost Mages by 20%. I think that was the old passive off the top of my head. But it used to do, yeah, that's spawning. Okay, so it used to increase, yeah, passively 20% there. But whenever a nearby hero died, you would get a Frost Mage on them. So this new version... Skeletal Warriors attack slow enemies by 30% for 2 seconds. Huh. Let's see what Artanis thinks of that. I think as a tank, he'd probably be upset by it.
As the balance decreases.
Oh, they're actually a little frosty, too. Oh, yeah, look at that slow. They're all fixated on his business. Oh, that's right. I have Executioner as well. Oh, my goodness, yeah. Executioner. Keeping him slowed. What's the duration on that slow? 2 seconds. Boy, that's pretty cool. That is a snag. I like that interaction there. Let's go ahead and reset, and we'll grab the other guy. Poison Nova.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
And Dariel's Visage. Makes sense. Poison Nova is all that. Poison Nova heals for 50% of the damage dealt. Skeletal Warriors deal 50% increased damage.
Forward.
Let's see what Artanis thinks about the... Oh, poor Artanis. He hasn't been the same since Zeratul. Well, you can play Legacy of the Void for yourselves. Let's go ahead and make some skeletons. Some poisonous skeletons, no less. Alright, there they are. Artanis is running for it early, though. So it looks like we won't get to see him connect. No, get back here. Okay, there we go. We gotta connect. And they hit harder. What I want to know is, let's get Artanis out of here. Do I get a poison heal for hitting buildings, hitting non-heroes? I do! Look at that tick away. Interesting.
Mayhem.
Let's try it on other things. Now, this is still a 90-second cooldown, so I don't think you would waste your Poison Nova trying to take a boss or anything foolish like that. But there's my little 65s. I mean, a big group, like you would use Poison Nova in the first place. That's a pretty decent bomb/heal waiting for you there.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
And the last one is Kalin's Edict. Skeletal Warriors attack reduce the cooldown of Xul's heroic ability by 1%. Really interesting that they made it percent-based. So what we're looking at here is a 0.7 seconds per skeletal attack off skeletal mages and a 0.9 second per skeletal attack off Poison Nova. So ultimately, in ideal situations, according to our math guy here, that's looking at about 18 seconds off of your skeletal mages and close to 20 seconds off of your Poison Nova, as both have different cooldowns. Poison Nova. So yeah, you get a little more Poison Novas in, a little more skeletal mages, but you'd have to be fighting somewhere near a lane to be spawning the skeletons in the first place. Of course, ideally, you fight, you blow your heroic, and then you run for it, and then create skeletons, reduce your cooldown, have a team fight that much sooner. So maybe you base this actually on whether your allies keep picking team fights every 60 seconds or so, 50 seconds or so, and you'd like to join them. Otherwise, it seems like a lot of these, particularly this Cold Hands, is pretty darn cool. With jailers in tow, you're going to guarantee yourself a little bit of that slow anyway. Maybe you want some more damage, but I think that's where you'll end up. This Mortal Wound, though, is really exciting. And what would that look like if I would do something like that? Maybe I would do, in that case, a Shackler, a Reaper's Toil for more. Here I'm doing kind of a rangy, pokey build. Gosh, no clear answer there.
I was eyeing that
Trying to keep people in control, hit by scythes, so maybe a slow into additional scythes. Really cool talent, great look to it. Bone Sphere, because I'm sort of ranged, and then Mortal Wound on that. Tough to say, they're situational levels, so we'll just have to see what you would pick along the way. But, you know, it looks like you got some more team fight ability. You have some really good options here. I think it's safe to say, though, that if you really enjoyed the solo game of Xul, where you just sort of push one lane or push two lanes infinitely, you will have some other jobs now. You have climbed the ranks, and those sort of distant jobs might be better handled by Murky. You should probably make some team fights on the brand new Xul. I'm looking forward to him. I think he's going to be great.